Hey, good morning, everyone. We'll just wait for a couple of minutes for everybody to join, maybe another 2 or 3 minutes, then we'll start. Thank you. All right, so it's 9:02. We can start the webinar now. All right, so hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and evening to all. And thank you so much for taking your time and attending this webinar today. In the wake of the coronavirus crisis, which has globally impacted every people and the businesses, we as a DataArchiva team urge everyone to take precautionary measures and stay safe. Welcome to the series 2 of our webinar. In the last webinar, we explored and gave insights of how data plays an important role in enterprise Salesforce strategy. And today, we are taking the next steps of going a little more further and cover an important topic, which is governance. And when we talk about governance, we are going to talk about specific to Salesforce and more importantly, certain aspects of governance and how data archiving is also one parameter that can be part of this governance. So before we get started, some general housekeeping activities. During this webinar, if you have any questions, please do post in the chat and we would answer all of these questions at the end of the webinar. If you are running late, we'll make sure that we are replying back to any of your queries that you have. We will be spending around 25 minutes on this topic and have the last 5 minutes for Q&A. So just a quick introduction. My name is Harish Kumar. I am the product head, and with me I have my sales manager, Mr. Rakesh Rao. Hey Rakesh, good morning and welcome to the webinar.
Hi Harish, good morning to you. Thank you for having me and for the quick introduction. Hello everyone. So thanks for joining this webinar. Hope this webinar will be useful for you. And yeah, so I think Harish can take it forward. Yes.
Thank you, Rakesh. So let's get started. We want to know the audience that these are the few takeaways from this webinar. The half an hour webinar, we want to make sure that we align with what you're going to take it from here. We're going to talk about an overview of the data governance. As a per se, where the data governance fit in. We're going to talk about some challenges related to data governance specific to Salesforce, and then we're going to take some use cases of customer as well and cover few areas of challenges which they face and how we are able to provide the solution to this customer. That would be some interesting use cases we want to discuss, and also finally a demo on certain things how we implemented for this customer related to the governance and this parameter. So this is a quick and short thing that we're going to discuss today. So this episode that we are doing, it started from Feb 2020, and this is our initiative wherein we wanted to have episodes of a webinar where we started initially with the data, the digital transformation in Salesforce, how it has happened. That was the last webinar that we covered. How digital transformation has changed from 10 years back, and today it has been different. Now today we are taking the next level and saying that with this data, how the importance of governance is critical, and then talk about some certain data archiving aspects as well. So keeping that in the mind, let's get started. So we're talking about data governance as an overview. So let me just take you a little back and just give you a little overview of what we wanted to talk about in this today. If you see, there is a massive disruption that has happened on the technology in the last decade, basically in all of those industries. And we're talking about technology disruption. And Salesforce actually is leading this kind of disruption on the technology. There is fintech, if you say, is disrupting the payments industry, doing transactions in millisecond. There is e-commerce, which is also a good example. All these industries are growing at a faster rate, and even the customer's demand is also increasing day by day. And this is what we understand from each of our customer when we speak, that every second is important, every process is important, everything that they do, there is a timeline that is being checked, whether are we meeting those things, rather than before the things has to work. But today it is all about not only work, is it getting available at the right time. So every second there is a massive data that has been processed, and today analytics and big data has become more predominant, and it is required for all industries to cater to such huge data, right? So when we talk about Salesforce data governance here, we talk about Salesforce talks about in the same language what we can give to the customer more and more, and that is where the customer 360 is also coming, and that is where businesses are also looking that this is we want customer 360 review. We wanted to know everything and anything of the customer, and that's how, if you see, the Salesforce has opened up API, the channels wherein you can integrate from anything. You can integrate from your own ecosystem with multiple cloud instances. Everything you can bring into one table and then try to give a overview through this many analytics that can run on the top of it. So having this integrations, having all these things and getting all this data comes with the one key thing, that is the governance. And then when you don't have a proper governance in place, the data is going to explode. We have challenges. So when we talk about the key ingredients that is related to this governance within Salesforce, we talk about one, data stewardship, in terms of who is supervising, how we are going to supervise the data, how the data is being used, and how can we set controls on it to make sure that right data is coming in and right data has been processed. That's the stewardship on the top level that is there. Then comes the data quality. How the data is processed, how the data is maintained, how the quality is maintained. There are various tools available in the Salesforce. There are various app exchange application that helps businesses to improve the data quality, the deduplication applications, and multi applications are there to ensure that how we can make this the quality of the data good. The reason is, it is very important that when you have massive data, the quality is the key thing people have to look into it. And there are multiple discussion that happens in specific to data quality. What are the best practices that can be done on this quality? I'll talk about architecture rather than management here in the ingredients part, because architecture leads to the data management as well. When you talk about data architecture per se, Salesforce has transformed from decades ago. It was just a CRM, and then gave a platform. And there were a lot of discussion in terms of when we are using a platform and given the customer to enhance it and customize it to the extent where the customer wants it. That's where a proper architecture has to be in place in terms of how we are able to have this process of deploying certain solution to the businesses. Do we have a proper checks and balances in how the code is deployed? Do we maintain a proper quality checks when it is moving from one sandbox to the second sandboxes? What are the timeline of the releases that happens on those code? And all this matters, because at the end, when you come to the production, and if you don't have a quality solution, that impacts the data management, and finally also in turns have a challenges with the quality, and also the solution by itself. So these are the key ingredients when it comes to data governance. And when we talk about why are this governance need that is coming in, the need is number one, businesses need to make a informed decision. That's why they want to have, they also need to know, hey, my need is, I want to do smarter business, I want to do smarter business by having all the information in place. I also want to ensure that I'm not just running out of data, because when we are in the cloud we have a limitations in terms of how the data is growing day by day. So I also need to have a checks and balances on that. I also want to make sure that the data visibility is never interrupted. The data which is coming in is there for me to do my analysis, to my for my team to get a proper view about it. And the last part is the compliance part of it. The need is, it has to be compliant. Today's world, we cannot ignore compliance, and compliance is the key thing to ensure that we are aligned with those kind of processes, and then that helps us to get the customer trust and able to build those relationships with them. So these are the need in terms of from the business perspective. And when we talk about the focus, we talk about specifically, hey, let's just go and drill down into more granular level, that what you are actually looking. When we look into that, accessibility, that's the first thing, saying that I need the data available as and when needed. Number two, usability, how data is available to use for better reporting and information. Number three, consistency, the data consistency is key and a must to make it relevant. Now, integrity, data integrity ensures relevant information can make sense and we can use this data any point of time. So data integrity has to be maintained, it has to be there. And finally, security, it has to be aligned with the business security policies that has been set on the Salesforce ecosystem. So when we are doing all of these things, all these areas, if it is not met, then we are just moving away from the governance. So the governance is not able to, we are not able to get that preview of all of these things. So if you see, these are the key challenges and the key pillars of the things that business want to ensure that if this is not met, we don't want to. I know there will be challenges. We might have a data explore that might be happening. We might need to do multiple strategy, but this few pillars we will never want it to disturb, because if this happens, it will be challenge for them to do a proper business. So when you talk about availability, we business want the data. It cannot be dumped in any cold storage or wherever where the getting the data itself is a challenge, right? Integrity, sometimes if the data is moved from the real system, how would we maintain this integrity in terms of the relationship, the complex thing that we developed over the last few years, couple of years. Nobody knows about how it has been grown over the years, and this integrity is a key thing, and it cannot be toppled up with it, because business need this entire data to make some sense out of it. Regulatory compliance, as I said, compliance is a critical part of it, and any point of time when there is audit, if there is some reports that has to be given and sent, it has to be available immediately. It cannot be like we need to run a process then come back to it, and again that has to be analyzed back and forth. So regulatory compliance has to be seamlessly integrated. And finally, the security of the data, we cannot have the just some amount of data that you're not using, just dump in somewhere, and then the challenge is, these are data, these are customer information, how are the security being taken care of it? We have all the security protocols maintained in our Salesforce ecosystem in terms of profiling the roles, their permission sets and stuff like that. And at any point of time when this data is moved, are we maintaining those security when somebody is able to view those data? So this challenges, if they can, we can answer it, then we can build a solution, or any challenges, any pillars we are able to answer it, it becomes a solution for the customer. Keeping this in the mind, we are going to talk about the use cases, and this is the interesting part where we will be just talking you through with some customer interaction that we had, and what challenges they faced, and what are the key areas they were looking, and we wanted to highlight that and see what we provided as a solution. So coming here is, we are talking about a Fortune 500 healthcare company. We are not disclosing the name because of contractual obligation, but yes, this company is globally have a global presence with multiple offices all across the globe. They have good amount of healthcare products and solutions that they sell to the customers. And then and the need, when they came back and asked about, hey, the availability is a key thing. I know we have a challenges, but one problem that we want to solve is, we are having a system that we use today for services, for the customer service. Now we are moving to Service Max, and this is ecosystem that works with the Salesforce as well. And we want to use Service Max to give a better efficient services to the customer. Given the volume of customer they cater, they wanted to handle millions of services requests, and they see if they implement this, the data growth is going to be just going on, and they need to have a strategy in place, not just for a year, for a 5 year or 10 year down the line. How we are going to make sure that the with this data growth, this challenge is also met? Because when you talk about customer services and continuously agents has to talk about it, the data is going to go. So that was their specific need. And in terms of regulatory, they want to make sure that only specific areas which they wanted to park it in somewhere else has to be taken care, not all of the data. So it has to be aligned with that regulatory. And second is from a service point of view, any sales agent, they want to make sure that the data is available as and when required. They just wanted to query it, and then they need it immediately of that particular customer, whether it is there in the live system or in the archive system. They don't care. They want to have the cases available, and in addition to that, aligned with their complex structure of multiple cases, part of multiple parents. They have the business in such a way that each case can be part of a contact, can be part of a certain other aspects as well. So how you are able to show them when they open a case or a parent, and they're able to show those cases, and it can be in our in live system or archive system. So the availability also was a critical part of it. The other use cases that we also like to cover was with one of the travel hospitality technology company who is providing solutions for all travel industry here. And being into hospitality solution, they have to cater to customers, and then their key thing is email messages, right? They have email to case kind of thing, and then they interact with a lot of customers, and they have segregated within their company different segments: high net worth customers, who are the people who can talk to them, and there is a separate segment who is only working with the separate other profile users. So they cannot mix and match this email communication that is happening. So the data integrity, the data security is the key part when they are looking for a solution. I know they're the way today they are communicating with the customer, the emails are going back and forth and just building up their the data and just growing enormously. What is the strategy that can build? So these are the key areas and challenges which the customer had, and we provided a solution for them. And I think this is what Rakesh is going to show in the demo just immediately following now. So you'll be more getting more insights in terms of, hey, how this happened, how we are able to help them in achieving these 4 pillars as well. So I'll be like to pass it on to Rakesh. If you can just go through this few areas that we discussed and give them the insight, that will be great helpful.
Yeah, that's great. So thank you, Harish, for a beautifully explaining the importance of 4 pillars of any data management strategy, and taking us through the use cases as well. So wonderful. So before I jump into the use cases, let me take a step back and give you a storage overview. So this is important because we are talking about data, and storage plays a very important role here. So now, Salesforce has different storage types. So one is data storage, second one is file storage, and third one is big objects. So what is this big objects? So big objects is the big data system which is built by Salesforce. So you can call it as Salesforce very own big data system. So now, how we can leverage on big objects to in your data management strategy. So how this will help, and how you can reduce the cost. So that is exactly what we're going to be discussing in the next couple of minutes, right? So before I go to use case, so I would just like to show you on our app. So this is a DataArchiva. So this is a app exchange solution, and it is a managed package which is available in app exchange, which you can download and use it. So now using app data archiva and big objects, how we have provided the solution for the use cases. So let me jump into it now. So this is account, so which is SL services. So SL services has a lot of email messages. So the use case is that they are from a healthcare industry, and they have lot of cases which is generated, and each case has got multiple parents. Now how do we maintain the integrity of the data? So that is a critical point. And so when we archive this data, so when we archive, how are we going to maintain the integrity of the data is what we will look into. So now if you look at SL services, so and then see archived cases, which is you can see the data archiver component. So within the object, so you will be able to see within the object, you will be able to see the archived messages as well. So you will be able to see the archived records within the case. So now so that means you will be able to access these data, so under the live object. So under the live objects, you will be able to see the data available, so that availability of the data is not a challenge, even though it is archived, so it is available under the live system. Now how do we manage the multiple parent issue? So let me go to contact here and show you. So this is Joe Mash, and it is a contact, and they have, there is a case which is attached to this parent. So and there is an asset, so and under this asset there is a case associated with this as well. So these two are child to an account object. So now if you see, when we archived, so we have taken care of both of it. So that means if you have a multiple parent and there is a case associated with multiple parents, so there is no issue. So while archiving, so we maintain that relationship, so the integrity of the data is taken care. So your data is not lost. So even if it is even if you have multiple parents, so you will be able to archive the data and store it. So that means master detailed relationship, master child relationship is always intact, so while you archive. So this is one of the use cases. And let me go to second use case where we have travel and hospitality industry. They use Service Cloud, and they cater to many customers, and they get a lot of customer requests through this. And they use email to message, and when a case is when the customer sends an email, and a case is generated, so this is how the case looks like. So there are a lot of communication with customers, and so the thing is that, so they want to keep this they want to see this message as is when they archive. So now this is an email message, and they want to archive only the email message, not the entire case. So how does it look? So when you archive, so you can see that archived email, and this is a data archiver component. And when I press view, so it will take you to the archived email message. So you see that, so this is as is. So that means whether it is in archived storage, or it is in this Salesforce live data, so the format is not changing, it is in the same format. So that means for any user who is looking to it, so seeing this will not have any impact. So that means it is seamless. Even though it is archived, so it is available under the live record, and it is seamless. So they can use it as is. So multiple communication which they have, so they will be able to see this under the live object. So there is no difference, and it is seamless. So now third thing is which I want to talk about is on the security of it. So now how do you can ask me, how do you manage security of all this data when you are archiving? So that we have taken care. So we use AES 256 encryption method to archive when you are archiving the data. So you can use this methodology to archive and keep the data secure. And not only that, we also have a user level permission, so where you can give the permission to users whether they want to view it, they want to alter this message, so whatever. So depending on what is that you need, so you can give the access depending on the user profile. So No, so I hope this covers all the four pillars which we talked about: the accessibility of the data, the integrity of the data, the security part of it, and then the regulatory compliance. So when I talk about regulatory compliance, so you might think of okay, some of the data which I'm not using it. So what is the use? So but you cannot delete because you might have your own regulatory or compliance purpose, or there is an industry regulation which doesn't allow you to delete this data. So what DataArchiva and along with Big Object does is that it handles all the four pillars of your data management strategy or data governance. So I hope this is gives a lot of understanding of how DataArchiva can help you in your data growth or data management strategy as well as governance. Harish, over to you.
Thank you so much, Rakesh. Thanks for this wonderful demo. I know there are a lot of things when it comes to the governance and the archiving, and we are going to explore it in the coming session as well. But if you ask me as a strategy, when we are talking about these four pillars, that is where customers are able to relate to their problems, and we're trying to see those challenges. And every customer is looking on a strategy, not today's strategy, a strategy where it can help them to manage this data. And also with the Salesforce plan for next 20 years, they also brought this big data system, and that is becoming the key thing where they want to give the customer to leverage it and see that they don't have any challenges on the data. And that's why we're talking about doing all these things, and still having a cost saving is a key thing. And when you're doing this, it in the back end there is a very good improvement in terms of CRM. You're managing your live data separately, and certain aspect of the data you're keeping it in a separate place. That gives you leverage that the real business is also not impacted, where you're able to manage this data back and forth here and there. And we talk about the enterprise grade governance because we are aligned with the way the solution works. So aligning with what Salesforce strategy that you're building in terms of who should access the data, the profile, the roles, and everything in terms of the data visibility, the data uh, accessibility. And that's where we are supporting not only the Salesforce, we also support government cloud and all the ecosystem related to Salesforce. So that's the gist of it today. And the next that we are going to cover is specific to certain industry, and that's where we have been industry specific customer come and say that related to healthcare and financial enterprises, we are trying to cover next time. And when we talk about healthcare, we're talking about Viva CRM. It's also app exchange application, and plus many other financial app services that we also integrate with them and also align with those kind of solution that the customer has, and how we can give them a better solution to see that their data is always aligned, or never have to worry about the growth, and able to still work around those pillars. So please do participate in that next episode as well. You will be able to see much more. We wanted to show more in terms of the configuration and certain strategy in terms of archiving, which we'll be discussing specific to those customers in the next session. So thank you so much for listening, and hope this got you something interesting for your day to start. So we'll more than welcome to take some questions now. And anything you want to reach out separately, we'll be more than happy to give you more insight, because the time here is limited to specific areas. But anything that you have, we're all open to answer to you. So with that said, I'm opening the quorum for Q&A. So there is one question that came, is, let me just read that out. Um, yeah. So does when you talk about security, does it support Shield? Yes, it does support Shield in a way that, as we talk about encryption, we also give a encryption within the big data, so that if you have a compliance requirement within your Salesforce and you are using Shield to do that, we have a similar mechanism where we are keeping those data encrypted in the big data as well. If you have sensitive information and you want to make sure that that is also not kept in the clear text format, we are fixing those things as well. Um, any more questions? Will you take care of metadata governance as well? Yes, we do take care of metadata governance as well. That's one of the points that the way at any point of time business might change. Next near future, you might add new fields, delete few fields, and how it's going to impact the entire strategy that you're doing it. The way the solution is built, it internally understands those things and ensures that the metadata, whenever it getting changed, it is aligned with it, so it doesn't disrupt your strategy of archiving. It does that, yes. One question is, we talked about email messages. So what about attachments? Yeah, when we're talking about data, we are talking predominantly specific to data. Yes, we also support attachments, but it's a separate solution that you can buy to do archiving of those attachments. But then we do support if you have attachments in the Salesforce, even if the data is gone to archiving system and you bring it back, we have a way to align with it. The same attachments can be brought back. How the solution will work in the financial industry, as security is our primary concern. um, uh, Financial industry, yes, security, as I said, encryption is the key thing, where we are work with the financial industry, we do have customers, and then with our encryption option, it is catering to their, and we are aligning with their security policies. Yes, we do. We have complex data relationship. Do you support it? Yes, we do support complex data relationships. I guess some of the examples that we're going to take it in the next time. Complex data relationships have been like amazing. We have customers with 40 hierarchies down the object level, and we support each of their relationships down below. It's not just the top level cases. If you have a child 20 child also, we ensure that all those data is captured, and depending on what policies you set it up, we are aligning with that, and then we ensure that all those data is taken care, not only for archiving but also to restore as well. Do you support external cloud and on-premise system? Yes, we do support external system in terms of if you have a need to ensure that you need to have a data that you want to keep it in your own ecosystem. We also have a solution where we ensure that all the data can be moved to the same ecosystem or any database that you have, where you can archive it and still have this aligned with our solution. uh, how can you rate the performance that you mentioned in terms of how what is the benchmark in that? um, uh, Typically there is we don't have a benchmark that we provide to the customer, because each customer is different. We have worked with customers where they have 1,000 users, they have 2,000 users, they have multiple app exchange solution that they have their own solution that has been built, and there are certain jobs that run continuously. So every ecosystem is different. We never found two ecosystems same, but yes, there is always improved performance which our customers are always informed about it, and they see that change when they're done this. But then do we provide a benchmark? No, we don't provide a specific benchmark saying that if we do that, this is the benchmark that we can achieve. All right, so no more questions. Yeah, thank you so much for attending. Really, thank you, and really appreciate your time for being part of this webinar. Um, 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 Please do write to us, and hope to see you in the next webinar. Thank you.
Thank you.